Alright, maybe drop kicking him into the craft service table was a mistake. Alright, but I ordered a Coke Zero and that was very clearly a Diet Coke. Hi, I'm Gruffus, welcome to Puppet Tabletop, and today we're going to be taking a look at Disgraced House. No, I'll take a Coke Zero if you're going over there. We've all witnessed the colossal rise of trick-taking as a mechanic in board games recently. The crew underwater, the crew in your favorite fantasy setting, Skull King, Sail, and even Arcs, even though that one is barely a trick-taking game. I'm sorry. It's a decent game, but it's not really a trick-taking game. Regardless as to whether or not you enjoy trick-taking as a mechanic, the odds are you've probably heard of one of these games. Trick-taking is the hottest new thing. It's the bee's knees. It's the cat's pajamas. Well, slap me silly and call me basic, because I love trick-taking. And while I do love me a big beefy box of cardboard dripping with complex rules, sometimes I just want a quick game that I can get to the table, play a few rounds, drink a glass of wine, and then collapse on the couch under the weight of my exhausting, stressful puppet life. If you're similar, then I have got a treat for you. Disgraced House is a small box trick-taking game from Shiny Pigeon Games. I stumbled across this game at Game Market West the other day, and ever since, it has absolutely
consumed my soul.
In Disgraced House, 2 to 6 players will be leading their houses to honor or disgrace over a series of rounds by sending out envoys to bid for power in hopes of ultimately becoming the new emperor of Japan. Well, not exactly Japan. It's like Japan, but like everybody's cats for some reason. No, not those cats. Get that out of here. No one wants to see that. Each round will consist of standard trick-taking turns, where players will be selecting an envoy card from their hand to either lead or follow a trick. If you're leading the trick, you can play whatever card you want from your hand. However, if you're following the leader, you can either play high by playing a card of equal or greater value, or you can play low by playing the lowest value card in your hand. After every player has played a card, whoever played the highest card, or most recently played a card equal to the highest card, wins the trick. And you're going to keep playing tricks until everybody has one card left. Then, with that final card, everybody's going to play one last trick with slightly different rules than the rest of the tricks. You're then going to score points for every trick you won, and start a new round until somebody reaches or passes 13 points total. Well, you're probably thinking that sounds like your run-of-the-mill trick-taking game. If you thought that, you would be wrong. Very wrong. You see, there are no card suits or trump cards in this game. Instead, what adds nuance to the game is the double-sided nature of all of the cards. Every card has both a black value and a red value. By default, you're going to be playing all your cards with their black value. However, throughout the game, you'll have the opportunity to gain fate tokens. Whenever you play a card, you can choose to spend one of your fate tokens to play your card as its red value instead, turning a crummy card into a potential trick winner, and giving the cards in your hand an extra dimension of versatility. Additionally, at the beginning of every round, you'll be drawing one advisor and one ally card. Advisors are cards that provide you a buff or additional scoring mechanic for that round. They might give you circumstantial fate tokens for the round, they might change the leader of the first trick, or they might give you a chance to score some points at the end of the round. At the beginning of a round, each player decides if they want to play the advisor that they just drew, or kick him to the curb to get some extra fate tokens. Allies, on the other hand, are cards that you play during your tricks, and they give you one-time bonuses. All of these elements, the fate tokens, the advisors, the allies, they don't change the game so fundamentally that its DNA is altered in any extreme way, but they provide a more interesting decision space, where you have options as to how you want to approach each round, and each trick. You might be looking down at an absolute dumpster fire of a starting hand and think, well, that's it, I'm gonna lose this round, but maybe you'll draw an advisor that changes the way that you play your hand. Also, maybe your ally will help you maneuver one of the upcoming tricks into your favor. Additionally, the game has a really interesting mechanic, where if you're the one leading a trick, you can play 2 equal value cards from your hand, and force all followers to have to play a 2-card trick. And this gives you a bit of an opportunity to skew the round in your favor. Since 2-card tricks are still worth only 1 point if you score them, It gives you a lot of opportunity to use them to dump out crappy cards that you want to get rid of. That way you don't have to drag out multiple trick losses in a row. Or you can use it as a way to force the turn to end quickly so your opponent has less opportunity to score. Alternatively, you can use it as a way to bait your opponents into dumping high or low value cards that they might have wanted to keep for future tricks. It also means that you're forcing the round to end sooner, which means fewer tricks because everyone will have fewer cards. You can make use of this mechanic to force rounds to end early if you're worried that an opponent might be getting within range of a victory. And after all of these turns of trickery, you see what I did there? Trickery? Because it's a trick-taking game. We now arrive at the final bit of the game. Once every player is down to one final card, the final turn, known as the Peace Treaty, begins. In this round, nobody wins the trick. Instead, every player wants to avoid playing the highest value card. That's because at the end of the Peace Treaty turn, every player will gain points equal to half of the value of the card that they played. Everyone, that is, except the player who played the highest value card. That player has disgraced themselves and their house. You get it? I almost said the name of the game, Disgraced House. Yeah. Anyway, that's where the title comes from. This Peace Treaty turn is so important that you actually begin planning for it at the very beginning of the round. In most trick-taking games, you're playing reactively to what your opponent plays. You either have the card to win the trick, or you don't. In Disgraced House, it feels a lot more like you're playing a hand management game, not only to try and ensure you have winning cards to score tricks, but also trying to ensure that you have a decent card left in your hand at the end for the Peace Treaty. This creates these really interesting risk-reward situations, where you might actually want to lose a trick specifically to try and bait out some low-value cards that your opponent has. And all of this is just to gain better footing for the Peace Treaty round, where hopefully you can make up those points that you had to sacrifice during the round. It also makes you cautious of playing low-value cards when following tricks, unless you have to, because you don't want to be stuck with high-value cards during the Peace Treaty. And if you're unfortunate enough to have to play the highest value card during the Peace Treaty, you can't help but kind of let out a but in a good way. That's because you normally know exactly what moment during the round you got outplayed and led to you being stuck with that crummy card. It almost never feels like something that was out of your control or just bad luck. Plus, as a consolation prize, you get the Emperor card to use during your next round that can be played with one of your Envoy cards to increase or lower its value by 1. And that's Disgraced House. There's not really a lot of rules here that you need to worry about. It's a pretty simple game to pick up and learn and teach to other people. So, what did I like about Disgraced House? Honestly, I enjoyed this game so much. The trick-taking genre is good for quick, easy-to-understand games, but a lot of games out there use the mechanic without adding much to the formula. There are only a few rules that anybody familiar with the genre would need to learn in order to get up to speed with Disgraced House. It's those rules, though, that manage to transcend the basic trick-taking formula in a way that felt fresh and engaging, while also staying true to the heart of what makes trick-taking games appealing to so many people. The removal of card suits, in addition to the fate mechanic, completely changes the way that you look at the game. You're no longer at the mercy of the cards you've been dealt, which can be one of the more frustrating elements of trick-taking games, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of people turn away from this type of game. A lot of trick-taking games feel like the only decision that you have to make is what card you want to play each turn. And sometimes there's not even a choice. Disgraced House, instead, asks you to decide what kind of card you want to play, how you want to play that card, and why you want to play it. All of these are things you need to consider before you make your decision. You are constantly thinking about how you can best manage your hand, when the best time to make use of your fate token or ally card is, what information will playing a specific card reveal about your opponents, how could it potentially disrupt their plans, are you going to be able to hold on to that card you want for the Peace Treaty? All of these questions are swirling around in your noggin at the same time, but it never really feels overwhelming. Instead, it makes you feel like a genius. Every time a card is played, you feel like you're Sherlock Holmes and you've just discovered a new clue that you can use to your advantage. As information is being revealed throughout the tricks, you're constantly having these Jimmy Neutron style brain blasts, where you realize a new way to tweak your strategy, or you might have some new insight into what your opponent might be trying to do. Everything in this game is so satisfying and you constantly feel like you're in control. Even losing this game feels satisfying because it does such a good job of making you feel like all of your decisions were your own choices. Another thing I like about the game is that it has a really solid catch-up mechanic. Fate tokens are a pretty valuable resource in this game, and there aren't a ton of ways to generate them outside of advisors. If you ever fall 3 or more points behind the person in first place, at the beginning of a round you'll be given a fate token to help you catch up. It's not going to make or break the game, but it does feel nice to have when you're falling behind. Which brings me to my next positive about the game. There's a lot of luck mitigation in this game for a trick-taking game. Between fate tokens, advisors, and ally cards, you usually have a few options for tweaking your hand to make it more optimal throughout the round. Compared to other trick-taking games, I never felt like one bad hand was going to dash my hopes of victory, because I had so many ways to improve my hand. Even if I was struggling, the 2-card trick mechanic would allow me to rush through the round and end it with as few tricks as possible to try and mitigate the amount of damage my hand would cause me if I was forced to play a bunch of 1-card tricks. Another thing I absolutely love about this game is how incredibly well suited for 2 players it is. I play a lot of board games during the week with my wife, and this game has become a 2-player favorite for us. And while the game does play well at higher player counts, at 2, it's an absolute dream. It feels like a constant tug of war where progress is determined by reading your opponent, poking and prodding their hand with your tricks to try and dismantle their strategy. Playing this at 2 players just highlights all the points that are so good about the game. Also, the component quality is fantastic. The cards feel reasonably sturdy, and the wooden bits are a nice touch. Plus, the game comes with player aids that not only include the trick rules, but also a breakdown of the cards and how many of them are in the deck. Plus, the box has a solid built-in storage insert that's simple but does the job incredibly well. I love it when a game actually takes into consideration how you're going to store the components. So what did I not like about Disgraced House? Well, if I'm being honest, there isn't much that I don't like about this game. The game is pretty simple and it doesn't do much, but what it does do, it does very well. But if I absolutely had to nitpick here, I would say the Japanese cat theme is a little bit uninspired. While the art is pretty good, I don't understand why there are so many board games made outside of Japan that are focused on cats inside Japan. I lived in Japan for most of my 20s, and other than one really cute cat I would pet on my way home regularly, and one other cat that would meow outside my apartment every night and keep me from sleeping, I didn't really see a ton of cats in Japan. At least not any more than you would see in any other country, so the Japanese cat theme is just kinda confusing to me. Another thing is that at the end of the day, this is still a trick-taking card game. That means that even considering all of the luck mitigation that this game includes, there's still a small chance that you could just get unlucky and have an absolutely awful turn completely out of your control. It's far less common than in other trick-taking games because of everything I've talked about earlier, but it can still happen, so, I figured I'd mention that. But in all honesty, I have no serious complaints about this game. Now for the solo review, please welcome our resident solo reviewer, Mortimer.
Hey Gruffus, what do you want?
How's the solo mode?
You already said it's a 2 to 6 player game. There's no solo mode.
Thank you, Mortimer.
I don't understand why you keep bringing me on here.
If I haven't made it obvious enough, Disgraced House has probably become my favorite trick-taking game I've played up until this point. It takes everything I love about the mechanic, makes it deeper without making it complicated, and helps mitigate the frustrating parts of trick-taking that turn so many people off from these types of games. It's a breath of fresh air in a genre that can honestly be kinda stale sometimes. And in recognition of just how good this game is, Disgraced House will be the very first game to receive the highest honor that we have to give here at Puppet Tabletop. The Puppet Chef Kiss. Disgraced House is definitely a keeper. It's gonna keep hitting the table for the foreseeable future. I can wholeheartedly say that if you enjoy trick-taking games, you're gonna have an absolute blast with Disgraced House. And I think that's gonna do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and remember to shop at your local board game store. Bye! Did you seriously just bring me another Diet Coke?